Alright, here's how to do the adjustment layers assignment for this class. You go want to start with have an image open. Any old image will do, it doesn't really matter. Then let's go and go to File, New, and we're going to make a document that is 12 inches by 12 inches by 72 pixels per inch. So just like this, make sure you're on inches, not pixels. Go and press OK. And we need to fit 16 of this image in here, and this is going to be a lot easier if we crop this ahead of time to fit. So we need 4 going across, 4 going down. Since it's 12 inches wide and 12 inches tall, we're going to crop this to 3 by 3 at 72 pixels per inch. To do that, grab the crop tool right here, keyboard shortcut C, come up here to the top of the screen, put 3 right there, 3 right there, and 72 right there. Make sure you get this last setting, that's important. And when I crop, I like to start up here in the top left-hand corner and just click and drag down until I get about the size I want. And then again, remember, if you need to, you can move this around. Make sure you keep this box inside the canvas. Don't get it outside here, or that's going to cause trouble. If you end up getting something that looks like this, where you get a white bar, then you know you did something wrong. So let me crop that the right way real quick. And there you go. See, it got a lot smaller. It's because we threw away a lot of pixels. Let's grab my Move tool, keyboard shortcut V, and I'm going to move this over into that other canvas. To do that, I'm going to click right here somewhere in the image and drag it up to this other tab. Hold it there for just a second. Wait for it to switch. Come back in and drop it. And there you go. It's in there now, and I'm going to put it right up here at the top left-hand corner. Now, a super easy way to duplicate this 16 times, or I guess 15 times, is to just hold down the Alt key. Notice how my cursor changes when I hold that down? With the Alt key held down, I can just click and drag, and every time I click, it automatically makes a copy. See my layers palette? I'm getting a new layer every time I let go of the mouse. I'm going to just keep doing this until I have 16 of these. Now, as you're dragging along, if you accidentally let go right there, make sure you let go of Alt before you move that back. If you hold down Alt when you go to move that back, you'll actually duplicate it again, and then we'll end up with extra layers that we don't need. So just make sure you let go of Alt if you need to. So right there, I accidentally went too far. I'm going to let go of Alt. I'm going to move it back. I'm going to keep going now. And there's my last one. And if you did it right, your layers palette should look like this. You should have a whole bunch of layers. Your very top layer should be layer 1, copy 15. All right, so I'm going to bring my layers palette out so I can see all my layers here because I got a whole lot of them. And let's get to work. I'm going to go back to layer 1, my very top left-hand corner. Do me a favor, make sure that with your Move tool selected that this right here, Auto Select Layer, is checked. That's going to make life a lot easier if you have that. So make sure you got that going on. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through each of these layers, and we're going to add what's called an adjustment layer. This little black and white circle here are adjustment layers. So I'm going to start with layer 1, my top left-hand layer, and I'm going to click on the black and white circle, and I'm going to add a solid color adjustment layer. And you're going to see that all that does is that fills that layer with a solid color. Okay, perfect. So go ahead and press OK. And you can see it actually made a new layer. It looks just like this. It's called Color Fill. It's right here above layer 1. And it did its job. It filled it with a color. So let's click on the next layer, or layer 1 copy, and I'm going to add another adjustment layer. For this one, I'm going to add a gradient. And let's choose one that's really stands out. So I'll choose that one. And notice how it didn't just cover up layer 1 copy. It also covered up layer 1. And that's the way adjustment layers work, is they adjust every layer that's underneath them. So my gradient layer, adjustment layer, is covering my color fill layer. Well, there's a really easy way to fix that. Sometimes we want that. Sometimes we like it when it covers all of the layers. And that's awesome. So if that's what we want, then we'll just leave it. But if not, we're going to right-click here on the gradient fill, or this adjustment layer. We're going to right-click and choose Create Clipping Mask. And you can see that tells it to only adjust the layer directly below it. So very good. Let's move on. I'm going to go to my third layer. This time I'm going to do a pattern. And let's just choose whatever pattern you have here. You won't have these. That's okay. Go ahead and press OK. And again, you can see it affected all 3 layers. We don't want that, so we'll just right-click on this and choose Create Clipping Mask. We're going to end up needing to do that on all 16 of these layers. So let's go to the next layer. And this time I'm going to do brightness and contrast. And I'm just going to keep working my way down the adjustment layers. My next one will be levels. My next one will be curves. You're not going to know what any of these are, and that's okay. Just play around with it. So I'll do, here's my brightness and contrast. You can see a box didn't pop up over here, but it popped up over here. And that's great. So I'll just come over here, and I'll just play with my brightness Increase the contrast, see what happens. But, oh, that's kind of cool. And again, I want to right click and choose Create Clipping Mask so that it's only affecting that layer. And let's just keep working our way through each of these adjustment layers until each layer has its own adjustment layer. All right, so I've added an adjustment layer to all of my layers. I only got to threshold. I didn't get to gradient map or selective color, but that's okay. So we're not done yet. Now we're going to go through and we're going to play around with some different things here. You can see my layers palette though is getting huge. I've got 30 some layers here. Some adjustment layers, some regular layers. What we're going to do now is go back to the bottom and we're going to click on our first adjustment layer, Color Fill 1, and we're going to play with the opacity of that layer. See this right here at the top of the layers palette? I'm going to click on Color Fill 1. I'm going to try changing the opacity and see what happens. See how it's making that layer, the adjustment layer, a little more see-through? And that's what lowering the opacity does. So I'm going to go through and the first 8 adjustment layers, I'm going to go through and just change the opacity just randomly and just kind of see what happens. Just kind of get into the habit of being able to change the opacity. That one looks kind of cool as you change the opacity on it. And you can see basically what it's going to do is just lower the effect that the adjustment layer had. Oops, I did that one on the wrong layer. I meant to do it on this one. Make sure you're doing these on the adjustment layer, not the actual layer. So these ones with the white boxes on it are the ones with the adjustment layers on. So go through and the first 8, I want you to adjust the opacity of that adjustment layer. All right, that was fun. Now on these second 8, what we're going to do is, here's my hue saturation adjustment layer. That's this one right here, so it's my 9th box. Perfect. I'm going to go through, instead of changing the opacity, I'm going to come up here and change the layer blend mode is what these are called. Layer blend modes. These are weird. These do weird things. We do actually use them quite a bit, so I want you to just pick a random layer blend mode. Maybe for this one I'm going to choose darken. You can see it had a little bit of an effect. I'll go to my next adjustment layer, and let's try linear dodge. And whoa, that's crazy. Let's go black and white, see what happens. And let's use hard mix. Woo! So just go through and change the layer blend mode on the remainder of your adjustment layers. All right, so I'm done. I've done the layer blend mode on all of my adjustment layers and done the opacity on some of them as well. We're almost done. We're going to go back now to the bottom. We're going to start on layer 1. We're done with our adjustment layers for now. We're going to go back. We're going to start playing around with the actual layers themselves now. Remember, there's 16 of these. These are the ones that look like this. They don't have the white box next to them. And what we're going to do is on each of these 16 layers, we're going to apply a different filter. And you can choose whichever one you want. So I'm going to start with layer 1. I'm going to come up and go to filter. And I don't know, let's go to distort and ocean ripple. And give it just a second. See, this box is going to pop up. And these little sliders over here are going to affect what my ocean ripple looks like. Oh, that's pretty cool. And I'll press OK. Then let's go to my next layer. Remember, we're working on the actual layers here, not the adjustment layers. So make sure you're on the layers, not the adjustment layers. And for this one, let's do filter, stylize, and find edges. Whoa, all right. That one didn't even give me a box. It just did something. And great. Move on. Next layer. I'm going to do filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And just crank that up. And all right, kind of cool. Very good. And I'll do one more for you here. Stay away from these ones down here, video and other. Those don't really do anything. You're welcome to do any of these other ones, artistic through texture. See what happens. You won't see much with sharpen. Oh, and don't do render clouds. That one is also kind of strange when you try that one. So let's try this. And oh, look at that. And there you go. So go through the rest of your layers, all 16 of them, and apply any old random filter. Remember, anywhere from artistic to texture. Stay away from render clouds. That will actually cover up multiple layers. But otherwise, feel free to explore and have fun with that and see what you can come up with. When you are done with that, we're going to go to File, Save. This is how we do every assignment. We're going to save this in our own folder first. We'll call it Adjustment Layers. Make sure we're saving this as a Photoshop PSD. And go ahead and press Save. And I already had one in here called Adjustment Layers. So it says, hey, you're going to replace that. You want to? Make sure. I don't care. Once that is saved, then go to File, Save As. And this time we'll go to the Grading folder. Find the Adjustment Layers assignment. And this is always, of course, last name, comma, first name. And then make sure you change the format to a JPEG. If you don't, I won't grade it. So make sure you get that right. Then go ahead and press save. Remember, when this box pops up, we just press OK. And you can now close this, and you are done.